What if the scariest part of seeing a UFO wasn't the UFO? What if the very next morning three pale men in black suits knocked on your door and told you to forget everything you saw or else? This isn't a movie. People have been reporting this for 70 years. So who are these guys? Folks, welcome to one of the most bizarre, underreported, and frankly deeply unsettling rabbit holes in modern history, the Men in Black. Not the Will Smith comedy, the real thing. Since at least the late 1940s, UFO witnesses, researchers, and journalists have reported visits from mysterious, pale-faced strangers dressed in identical black suits, driving black cars, flashing government-looking credentials, and here's the kicker, threatening people into silence. Are they secret government agents running a UFO cover-up? Are they something stranger? Or is this all the world's most persistent shared hallucination? Get a load of this, because the answer might actually be all three. Let's start with what the boring, sensible people say, and honestly, even they have some wild stuff to admit. The Men in Black phenomenon traces back to the late 1940s and early 1950s, right at the dawn of the modern UFO era. The first well-documented case involved a man named Harold Dahl in 1947, who claimed to have witnessed a UFO over Maury Island in Washington state. The very next day, a man in a black suit arrived at his home, warned him not to discuss what he'd seen, and then, according to Dahl, described the UFO encounter in perfect detail, even though Dahl had told no one. Then came Albert Bender. In 1953, Bender was running one of the most active UFO research clubs in America, the International Flying Saucer Bureau, when he abruptly shut the whole operation down. His friend and fellow researcher Gray Barker published an account claiming Bender had been visited by three men in dark suits who threatened him into silence. Bender himself later admitted this, and maintained for the rest of his life that the Men in Black were secret government agents tasked with suppressing UFO evidence. Over the following decades, dozens, eventually hundreds, of UFO witnesses reported similar experiences. The visitors were consistently described as pale-skinned, emotionless, wearing identical black suits, driving black Cadillacs, and possessing government-style ID that didn't hold up to scrutiny. Witnesses described the men as speaking in stilted, robotic language, sometimes having trouble with basic human tasks like eating or drinking. Now, the official government position. The U.S. government has never formally acknowledged the Men in Black. What it has acknowledged is Project Blue Book, the Air Force's official UFO investigation program, which ran from 1952 to 1969, and more recently, the Pentagon's UAP Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, established in 2020, and AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, launched in 2022. Congressional UFO hearings have been held for the first time in over 50 years. The government's line, "We're investigating, we're transparent, there's no cover-up." Sure. Here's where it gets genuinely interesting, and where even the skeptics have to pump the brakes. A 2014 Guardian investigation, reporting on a documentary called Mirage Makers, revealed something stunning. Actual former U.S. government agents admitted on camera that they spent decades feeding fake extraterrestrial evidence to UFO researchers. The goal? Distraction. By keeping ufologists chasing little green men, classified military technology, spy planes, advanced drones, experimental aircraft could be tested in plain sight without anyone asking the right questions. The UFO community was, in this reading, a useful smokescreen. The Guardian piece also noted that hidden within the Edward Snowden document leak was a GCHQ PowerPoint presentation titled The Art of Deception, Training for a New Generation of Online Covert Operations. Intelligence agencies were actively studying how to manipulate public perception, plant false narratives, and manage civilian witnesses. So the question stops being, did the government ever intimidate UFO witnesses? And becomes, how systematically did they do it, and are they still? Skeptical researchers like Mick West, author of Escaping the Rabbit Hole, argue that the UFO/MIB phenomenon has been consistently weaponized, not necessarily by aliens, but by defense agencies that benefit from public confusion around sensitive airspace. Keep the public looking up at the sky for flying saucers, and they stop asking questions about what the military is actually flying. The psychological explanation also has serious academic backing. Folklorists and psychologists point out that the Men in Black perfectly mirror the dark stranger archetype found in cultures worldwide, a threatening, otherworldly figure who arrives to enforce silence. The consistent physical description, pale, robotic, emotionless, may reflect the way traumatized or frightened witnesses project anxiety onto authority figures. That said, shared mass hallucinations don't usually drive black Cadillacs and know details about events they weren't present for. All right, folks, I've been looking forward to this part. I brought in a friend, a very calm, very well-read individual who has apparently not slept since 2003. Tell the people what you know.
I appreciate that. Let's start simple. The Men in Black are not just government agents. They are a dedicated, compartmentalized black budget unit that exists entirely off the congressional record. No budget line, no oversight. They were never officially created, which means they can never be officially dissolved.
A secret government unit that doesn't officially exist. In this economy. Fantastic, go on.
Look at the pattern. Albert Bender shuts down one of the most prominent UFO research organizations in America in 1953, immediately after being visited. Gray Barker documents it. Then Barker himself is visited. Then the researchers studying those cases start getting visits. The suppression is self-replicating.
It's a pyramid scheme, but for shutting people up.
That's actually not a terrible analogy. Now, the Maury Island incident. Harold Dahl's visitor knew precise details of the UFO sighting before Dahl had told a single person. Either the government had surveillance on him before he even reported anything, or the Men in Black weren't following him. They were there.
Oh, you're saying they were at the UFO sighting.
I'm saying someone was, and it wasn't a coincidence.
Get a load of this. Okay, next theory, because I know you've got more.
The government admitted it. That's the part everyone skips over. Former agents told a documentary filmmaker they spent decades running disinformation operations, feeding fake UFO evidence to researchers on purpose.
Right, to cover for experimental aircraft. That's almost the boring explanation at this point.
It's boring until you ask the next question. If they were willing to run 40 years of disinformation to cover for aircraft, what are they running disinformation to cover for now? The UAP hearings started. Witnesses got congressional protection, and suddenly the narrative shifted. Not, there are no UFOs, but we're investigating transparently. The playbook changed because the old one stopped working.
So the new cover-up is pretending to investigate the cover-up.
Follow the money. Who funds AARO? Who has oversight of what gets declassified? The same defense contractors who build the classified aircraft the UFO stories were covering for in the first place.
You cannot be serious.
I'm always serious. Now, the physical descriptions. Witnesses across decades, across continents, independently describe the same thing. Pale skin, robotic speech, difficulty performing basic human functions like eating or walking.
I feel like I've met people like that. We call them middle managers.
Some researchers think the Men in Black aren't human at all, that they are either non-human entities or something in between, which would explain why so many witnesses describe them as fundamentally wrong. Like a person wearing a person costume.
A person wearing a person costume. I need a minute.
Take your time. One more. The Snowden documents. GCHQ was actively training operatives in the art of deception, manipulating public perception, running fake personas online, managing witness narratives. The Men in Black aren't a relic of the 1950s. They just moved online.
So now they're digital men in black.
They're whatever shape the silence needs to take.
Oh, it gets better. It always gets better with you. Someone get this man a snack that isn't tinfoil. Here's where the mainstream story, the critical analysis, and the conspiracy theories actually overlap. And that overlap is more uncomfortable than any of them alone. All three camps agree on this. The U.S. government has, at documented, confirmed, on-record moments, deliberately deceived the public about UFOs. The only disagreement is about why and how far it goes. Mainstream, it was to protect classified aircraft programs. Alternative/critical, it was broader psychological operation territory, potentially ongoing. Conspiracy, the deception goes all the way down, and the Men in Black are either the tip of a non-human iceberg or a self-perpetuating black budget apparatus. Where they diverge is on the physical Men in Black themselves. The mainstream says, probably Air Force investigators, possibly a FOSI Air Force Office of Special Investigations, agents running informal intimidation ops, misidentified or exaggerated. The alternative view says, probably real agents running real disinformation for reasons that have nothing to do with aliens. The conspiracy view says, real agents, possibly something beyond agents, and the alien cover story is itself a cover story for something even stranger. The one thing nobody can fully explain, the consistent physical descriptions, pale, robotic, wrong. That detail shows up across independent witnesses, across 5 decades, across multiple countries, and nobody in the mainstream has given a satisfying account of why. All right, folks, here's what the evidence actually supports, and I'm going to be straight with you because that's what we do here. Is there a shadowy government apparatus that has, at various points, intimidated, discredited, and deliberately misled UFO witnesses? Yes. That is not a theory. Former government operatives admitted it on camera. The motive in the documented cases was protecting classified military technology from public and foreign scrutiny. That's real, that's confirmed, and it's frankly disturbing enough on its own. Are some Men in Black encounters likely explainable as FOSI agents, Air Force investigators, or other federal operatives running informal and thoroughly illegal witness intimidation? Almost certainly yes. Are some encounters likely misidentification, psychological projection, or embellishment by frightened witnesses? Also yes. The dark stranger archetype is deeply embedded in human psychology, and fear does strange things to perception. The full picture explained by any single one of these answers? No. The Maury Island prior knowledge problem, the robotic physical descriptions across independent witnesses, the self-replicating suppression chain, the post-Snowden confirmation of active deception programs. These pieces don't all fit neatly into just scared witnesses or just protecting spy planes. Something was happening, something was being hidden. The exact shape of that something is still classified. That's the Men in Black file, officially closed, unofficially wide open. Drop your theory in the comments, hit subscribe if you want the next classified briefing, and remember, the truth doesn't care